What's up, Inkie peeps? It's Adele from Inkie Quill, and I have a triple page process video for you today, plus some jelly plate printing experimentation. So first up, I've got this epic magazine. I think I bought it towards the start of last year, and it was some anniversary special. I've never bought it before. It was expensive. I think it was might have been close to $30, and it has some great fashiony people in there, like this lady. Look at that. So I'll be using that in a page coming up, and I always forget to reach for it because I have other magazines that are skinnier, and in all honesty, they're easier to reach and flip through because they're nice and thin and nice and light, whereas that book is like a doorstop. It's very, very heavy. Oop, I just chucked a glue stick on the table. So for this one, I've got this picture, and I'm sure she's a famous actress. Is it Liv someone, possibly? Is she an actress? I feel like she's a famous person, and I'm gluing over this poor yellow jacket person, but they don't really suit the vibes of my page that I'm going for. And this page was actually in between two signatures, so there was a little bit of a gap in the spine there, so I'm just using my bone folder to smoosh the page in and make sure that it's glued nice and carefully. I do get questions about why I use glue sticks sometimes and why I use matte gel medium sometimes with my collaging, and sometimes it's a case of if I feel like being messy and having a paintbrush, and I might not have a jar of clean water on my desk, so I use a glue stick. Other times I find that the glue stick does give a smoother finish. Often with the matte gel medium, I get all sorts of lumps and bumps and give these poor magazine people extra wrinkles and fine lines, or not so fine lines, chunky lines, where they might not want it. So if you are looking to start collage, try glue stick and see if you like it. And if you do, stick with the glue stick, because I find it does give a smoother finish. You can also get a gift card and smush it over the image like you would with a ruler when contacting school books, and that kind of smooths it out, any bubbles as well. So I grabbed my gesso next because the book page on the right hand side is very porous, and the book page on the left hand side, that little slither, is very, very glossy. And I knew I wanted to do some sort of paint. I wasn't sure if I was going with watercolor or acrylic ink, but I wanted to do something that was a little bit transparent and not just like a thick. If I was just using normal acrylic paint, I may not have bothered to gesso, but because watercolor and acrylic ink are a lot more fluidy and liquidy, they will get sucked into the page a bit more. So then, just to make things even more liquidy, I just sprayed my page with some water, and I'm using the Jane Davenport watercolors here, and I really should have been using a bigger paintbrush for this, but I don't think I had one nearby, so I just made do with what I had. And I wanted to pick a color that was complementary to the purple flowers, because they are very purple and bulbous, and they're very spherical. So I wanted to stick within the cool color family, so I chose the blue, and it's kind of like an aquary green, and then I did some splatters. I should have covered up her face though, because she did grab an extra few blue pimples on her chin that I didn't intend to be there, but alas, if you're cut up and put in my art journals, you should be prepared to accidentally get splatters on all over you. That's just what these models need to understand. So I gave that a try, and then I decided that I wanted to add some like collage paper, and I had a look through my jelly plate papers that I had previously made, and there were none that were the colours that I wanted. So I thought, why not? Let's make some more that we can suit this page better. So these paints that I'm using are all just from my local cheap shop. I'm using white gesso as in place of my white paint, and then I'm just using my brayer to roll it out. Now, the way that I jelly plate print is that I always put too much paint on my jelly plate on purpose. And the reason that I do this is because I like to use it kind of like a palette almost, to roll out some paint onto my deli paper before I even get started. So it gives me a background without having to go through the process of printing a lot of backgrounds. And I really like the look of the brayer, because you can really tell that it's been done with a rolling motion and not just with a paintbrush. So then I grabbed some more deli paper and I'm smushing that on top there. And when I did some jelly plate printing in the recent live stream, a lot of people asked what it was like. And it's not waxed paper because it's not shiny like that. It's a little bit shiny, but not like wax paper. I don't think it's like parchment paper, because I think parchment paper is more papery. It's kind of in between the two. And I saw it used by a lot of American YouTubers that I follow, and I had no idea what it was, and I really wanted to find some and use it myself. And my beautiful friend found some at a food supply store. So if you are in Australia and you're looking for some, you could check out if there's like a cafe supply store near you, or maybe try Googling if there's any local or that could post to where you are. It's really nice to work with. It's extremely thin. It would be as thin as, I would say, like Bible paper, very, very thin, could tear very easily if you wanted to, which I do in a little while. But now I'm adding some stencils, and I was looking for stencils that didn't have too teeny tiny hole. The leaf one was a little bit tricky. You can see the sections of the stencil were just a little bit too small for me to get the paper down in. So I would recommend using a bigger sized shape, like that middle, it's kind of like a water droplet, I guess you could say. And then of course you can use the stencils just like stamps afterwards, which is really handy. And then the stencils have left an imprint on the paint. So if I tear this up, you will see the inverse of the stencils, which is a really nice effect as well. So then I grabbed some more paint, and I've been really digging the fluoros. I'm still on my fluoro kick, and I really enjoy how they make your page pop a little bit. You could do this for, of course, any colours that are your favourite colours or that match your journal page. And then, of course, just like last time, I've purposely put too much paint on so that I can add a little bit to my page. Now, if I wanted to, I could have gone back and added more layers of stenciling. Quite often I'll go back in with some white as my final layer. I think that really makes it pop. Or I will use paint pens to add some more things as well. Or even just straight up stencil like normally on top of this paper as well. You don't have to just jelly plate on these papers that we make. But today I just wanted to get in and just use it. Now, I haven't learnt my lesson, and I'm trying to use that leaf again. And I think sometimes if you have something that doesn't work once, it's worth a shot to give it another try. Just give it one more go, because it might have been user error, or maybe the paint wasn't thick enough, or it was too dry, or some other problem. And it did work a little bit better that time, which I was very pleased about. So then I'm just trying to find some spaces on here where I can squeeze in. And even if you can't see the full shape, it just transfers a little bit of colour and just gives a little bit of excitement to this background paper. Peeling this off. And then I did something silly. I added white gesso to my jelly plate, and I then printed it in my art journal. And I actually didn't think it was going to come off with anything. but it did. It worked really well. So that's what I just showed you then. I did do it off camera though, because I didn't think it would do anything. So now I am trying to figure out, you can see how easy this deli paper tears. It's like butter. I'm just figuring out where I want to put it. I really wanted to use that leaf stencil. I was quite stubborn because I felt like this layout was very, plants and trees and outside and leaves. I just thought it matched it quite well. I could have also done circle stencils and had a really great link to the circle flowers. Those flowers are massive. Are they really that big? Or is it just the perspective? Is that flower as big as her head? I don't know. I'm not sure about this. When I collage down the jelly paper, I usually use matte gel medium. It just sticks a little bit better than the glue stick, but you might prefer to use glue stick. And then I always do another coat over the top. I always wrinkle my deli paper in some way, which you can see in the middle there. But I'm okay with that. It adds a bit of extra texture. Ooh, extra texture. And now I was looking at this side bit and I felt like it needed a pinky touch, because we had the hit of purple in the center with the flowers, and then you've got the pinky purple of that big piece of deli paper on the right, and I felt like it needed a third little thing. So I'm just snipping this little bit that would have ordinarily probably gone in the bin, because it was just an off cut, but it found a home over there. I felt like I needed some white to coordinate with her dress. So I just grabbed some text from the magazine page that was opposite, the one where I took this photo from, and I'm just sticking that down with some matte gel medium too. By putting matte gel medium over the top, it kind of gives it an extra seal as well. So if I was then to add more watercolors or more paint, it just protects the paper from sucking in all of those mediums as badly as it would without. So then I wanted to do some stenciling, and I have sped up I always try to speed up my stenciling because it takes so long, and halfway through my arm always feels like it's going to fall off because I have no upper body strength. So I really wish, if I had a superpower, I wish it was fast hands, because I could get a whole lot of stenciling done in a fraction of the time that it currently takes me to do it. So I'm just using white gesso and a cheapy makeup sponge and getting that done. I thought this stencil worked out perfectly with those flowers. It matched it really well. I had some leftover gesso, so I just plonked it on the next page, because I know that I have to gesso that page anyway. So I thought, why not pop it on? And now I'm coming back with this stencil. I do believe they're both from Darkroom Door, and I started just tracing it with a pink pen, but I didn't like it. I didn't like I don't know, I thought it was a bit too finicky, so I grabbed some pink paint instead, and I'm going to stencil them with the light pink and then go back and give them some dark pink pen details as well. So when I use this light pink, if you want to have a really vibrant pink, I guess you could say, or not vibrant, but a colour that matches the colour that it is in the paint pot, I would suggest putting white gesso first, so stenciling the flower in white gesso first before you do the pink, because it does take on the colours that are under it. So some of those blues in that deli paper that we made would have come through, but instead of doing a coat of gesso first, I just did an extra coat of stenciling, and that pinked it up a little bit. Adding some touches with, I think this is a pink pen from Muji, I do believe. It's one that I filmed in my recent pen haul, stationery haul over on Let's Get Inkie. And it's the first time I've used it. I should have waited for my paint to dry just a little bit more, but I was impatient, as I often am. And then I wanted to do a quote, and I was considering black, but then I thought the black would be just a bit too harsh, a bit too in your face. And this page was so gentle and, I hate this word, but organic, with all the curved edges and the curves of the flowers, that I thought the black would just be too overpowering, so I opted for hot pink instead, and it worked out quite well. It pops really nicely against that turquoisey, acre bit of paint right in the centre as well. Time for some mini mark making, and I'm just doing a whole lot of dots and dashes and plus signs in the colours that I've already been using. If I wanted to, I could have like a fluoro orange, I think would have looked really nice on this page as a real big contrast. Pink and orange are colours that I think, because I grew up in the 90s and early 2000s, I am scarred by some of the fashion choices that I may have made during that era. And pink and orange, although they go together, they bring back bad memories. But I am trying to make them be friends more often and get over my fears of colours. It's not really fears, I'm just kidding. But I do kind of twitch a little bit when I see pink and orange together, because I had this dress and it was so gaudy and just so many sequins and frills and too much going on in the one dress at the same time, but I loved it. Back on track with some art journaling now, and this was a page that had some lettering on the left hand side that didn't work out as I wanted it to. I went to use one of the brush pens, and I had obviously used it with like a purple before, and it had some purple on the tip, and I didn't like how it had merged in with the colour. And so I gessoed over it, and I had gessoed over this magazine page as well. So I decided to cover up both sides with my Gelli plate instead. My Gelli plate print, not the actual Gelli plate. And that's why I really love doing these mixed media backgrounds on deli paper, because they're so thin and you can just layer them, and it doesn't chunk up your journals too much as well. The old glue stick's getting a real workout today. I introduced Archie to glue sticks the other day, and it's very cute. He loves them. So we scribbled on a piece of paper, and then he cut it up into random little bits and pieces, and then he stuck them down to a separate coloured piece of paper just all over the shop. And he's so funny. When I think he's going to be really messy, he surprises me and he's not. And then when I don't think he can be messy, he just whips out all of the mess everywhere. And so when he's using his glue stick, he puts the lid back on in between every use. I may have prompted him to do that only because of my years of teaching 5-year-olds to glue worksheets in their workbooks. Oh my goodness. I really don't want to see another glue stick again when I think about those memories and how hard those days were. Oh, if you've ever had 35-year-olds trying to glue a page in their book for the first time, it's fun. It's definitely a learning experience. That's all I'll say. But yes, I'm hoping to save his future teachers. I might try and get him in with the glue stick early and help teach him the proper ways how to use it, not eat it, put it on the paper, not on the carpet, that kind of thing. We'll see how we go. So I did a little quote by, my fave, Morgan Harper Nichols, and I think half of this journal is filled with her quotes. I have been saving quite a few over on my Pinterest board. If you're stuck for journaling ideas and you want some quotes without having to search for ages, I've got a whole board over there with all different topics and all bits and pieces. I'm adding a few sprinkly bits, and this page honestly didn't need much done. And I love pages when they just come together And because the mixed media was already done on the deli paper, I didn't need to add too much to it. So the quote is really the hero of this page, and I really like that. So then I wanted to do one more, and I'm trying to fill up this junk journal, and I'm very, very close getting there. I feel like I'm really close, and then wabam, about 5 pages crawl out of the woodwork, and I go back to square one, and I still have more pages to go. So that point when you love a journal, but you're just really excited to be able to flip through a finished version of it. I feel like I'm at that point with this journal, and I think the reason for it is that this final signature that I made has quite a few papers that aren't my favorite to work on, and so I'm trying to just push through and get them done and not abandon it. I'm not going to abandon this journal. I'm going to get it done before I'm allowed to make another junk journal. I've promised myself. For this one, I wanted that girl against that book page, and the problem with both of these papers is that they are shockingly thin. So pretty much if I was to use a paint pen or even just a normal pen, it would show through to the other side. And so I thought by adding the deli paper before I write my quote, it gives me another layer to help kind of create a barrier for the ink not to show through on the other side of the page. So I'm using my gel medium to stick down my little chunk of deli paper, Delight. So I'm just sticking that down and then doing a coat over the top. I also should have waited a bit longer. I did dry this off camera with my heat gun. However, it was still a little bit wet when I wrote on it, which is sometimes the case. So then sticking down this lass and her stray hairs, sticking those all down and really paying attention to the edges, because I really, really hate when I'm flicking through a journal and there's just tiny little bits of the edge of papers not stuck down properly. It was the same, sending me back to those memories. It's the same when I was gluing sheets in kids' workbooks when they had just like the little flappy bits. Oh, some children though would use like almost an entire glue stick for one page, and then others would only use a whisper of a glue stick and the page wouldn't last stuck in for more than 10 seconds. Oh, my one tip, if you are ever buying school supplies for your child, please avoid the cheap glue sticks. Please, for the sanity of the teachers, please. I'm not sure what it's like where you are, but where it's different for different schools in Australia and different grades at the school I was even working at as well. So in one of the years that I was teaching kindergarten, the children had a list and they had their own supplies. And then the next year, the teachers were in charge of providing everything. And I bought the top-notch, the Boss Stick glue sticks, because I wasn't dilly-dallying around with these cheapies that just run out. I'm passionate about glue sticks. I think we've discovered a new secret about Adele in this video. Oh dear. I do like my adhesives. It's obvious by how much tape I use on my scrapbook pages. So while I've been rambling about glue, I have done my quote, and I felt like it was missing a little bit of pink down in that bottom corner, and I'm really glad that I put that tiny strip, because it almost looks like she's tucked in between the two papers, the two painted papers. And I think by just adding that tiny little strip, it brings your eye around the page that there's 3 big bold elements. There's the first pink painted strip down the bottom, there's the girl, and then there's the background deli paper bit. And I really like the subtle little bit that front page added. So now my page is done. I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope it's inspired you to create some mixed media papers. Even if you don't have a Gelli plate, you can still slap some paint down, do some stenciling over the top, and then you can rip it and tear it and use it in your journals to your heart's content. I did now lose my other page, so searching, can't find it. Where is it? Where have you gone? You're there somewhere. Found it. All right, peeps, I hope you have a fantastic week, and I'll see you in the next video very soon. Bye.